My sister got a designer dress for graduation. I got a bill for groceries and a lecture about contributing more. Dad said she earned it. You haven't. I nodded, packed my clothes, and left. 2 weeks later, they found out who'd actually been paying the rent, and it wasn't their golden girl. My name is Michael Davis. I am 24 years old, and for most of my adult life, I have been the person my family called when something needed fixing, when bills piled up, when emergencies struck in the middle of the night. I was dependable. I was steady. I was the solution they never thanked. My sister Emily is 22. She graduated from college that spring with a communications degree and a smile that could light up any room she entered. Our parents adored her. They framed her report cards, celebrated her smallest achievements, threw parties when she got a retail job at a boutique downtown. She was their pride, their golden girl, the child who could do no wrong. I was different. I was the one who worked night shifts at a warehouse, who freelanced as a graphic designer on weekends, who showed up to family dinners exhausted and quiet. Nobody asked why I looked so tired. Nobody wondered where my paycheck went. They assumed I was saving for myself, building some selfish future, while Emily contributed to the household with her part-time retail earnings. The truth was more complicated. 2 years ago, Dad lost his job. The company he had worked at for 15 years downsized, and suddenly, our family was struggling. Mom worked as a school secretary, barely making enough to cover groceries and utilities. Emily was in college, her tuition already a burden. I was the only one with a steady income. And when the landlord started sending late notices, I made a decision. I started paying the rent. Every month, I transferred $900 to the landlord directly. I never told my parents. I did not want the guilt, the arguments, the pressure to explain why I was stepping in. I just wanted them to be safe, to have a home, to not worry about eviction notices. So, I worked harder. I picked up extra shifts. I designed logos and websites for clients I found online, sometimes working until 3 o'clock in the morning to meet deadlines. I ate cheap meals, skipped outings with friends, wore the same clothes until they frayed. I told myself it was temporary, that Dad would find work soon, that things would stabilize. They never did. Dad found a job eventually, but it paid less. And by then, the family had adjusted to a lifestyle they could not actually afford. Emily got her designer handbags. Mom redecorated the living room. Dad bought a new television. And I kept paying the rent month after month, invisible and unacknowledged. On the evening of Emily's graduation, the house smelled like roasted chicken and garlic bread. Mom had cooked a feast. The dining table was covered with dishes. And in the center sat a large gift box wrapped in silver paper. I knew what it was before Emily even opened it. I had overheard Mom on the phone with the boutique confirming the purchase of a designer dress worth $2,000. I sat at the edge of the table watching Emily tear through the wrapping paper, her face glowing with excitement when she saw the dress, a sleek black piece with delicate embroidery. She squealed and hugged Mom and Dad. "This is perfect. Thank you so much," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Dad smiled, his chest puffed with pride. "You earned it, sweetheart. All that hard work, all those good grades. You deserve something special." I felt something twist inside my chest, but I said nothing. I just sat there holding my fork, staring at my plate. After dinner, I helped clear the plates. I carried dishes to the kitchen, scraping leftovers into the trash, running hot water over greasy pans. Emily stayed in the living room showing off her new dress to relatives who had stopped by to congratulate her. I could hear her laughter, bright and carefree. I was drying a plate when Dad walked into the kitchen. He held a piece of paper in his hand, folded in half. He did not look at me when he spoke. "Michael, we need to talk." He unfolded the paper and placed it on the counter between us. It was a receipt from the grocery store dated from earlier that week. The total was $147. "You bought groceries," he said, "but you didn't contribute to the household fund this month." I stared at the receipt, my mind going blank. I bought food for the house. That's contributing. "That's not the same as putting money into the account," Dad said, his tone firm. "Your mother and I have been covering everything while you focus on your own stuff. Emily helps out. She gives us part of her paycheck every month." You need to step up. The words hit me like a slap. I looked at him, searching his face for any hint of irony, any sign that he understood how absurd this conversation was. But his expression was serious, almost disappointed. Step up, I repeated, my voice low. Yes, you're 24 years old, Michael. You should be contributing more to this family. Emily is younger than you and she's doing her part. It's time you do the same. Something inside me cracked. I thought about the rent payments, the endless shifts, the sleepless nights hunched over my laptop designing websites for strangers. I thought about the rent she thought Dad was paying, the stability she took for granted, the home she felt safe in. It had all been me. The brother she dismissed. The brother they all dismissed. Oh my God, Emily breathed, sinking into a chair. Dad paced the kitchen, his hands running through his hair. I told him he wasn't contributing. I didn't know. I should have known. Please come home. We can fix this. The third was Emily. She was crying. Michael, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Please don't hate us. Please. I set the phone down, my hand steady. I did not feel angry anymore. I did not feel vindicated. I just felt tired. The kind of tired that sleep could not fix. I opened my laptop and pulled up the document I had created days earlier, the one with all the rent payments listed. I attached it to an email addressed to my parents and Emily. In the body of the email, I wrote a single line. This is what I've been contributing. I hope it was enough. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I closed the laptop, turned off my phone, and lay down on the motel bed. The neon sign outside buzzed and flickered, casting shifting shadows across the walls. For the first time in 2 years, I felt something close to peace. I was sitting in a coffee shop nursing a black coffee and working on a logo design for a client when Emily walked in. I saw her before she saw me. Her eyes scanning the room, her phone pressed to her ear. She looked stressed, her usual brightness dimmed. Then she spotted me. Her expression shifted from worry to relief to something close to anger. She ended her call and walked over, her heels clicking sharply against the tile floor. Michael, she said, her voice tight. What the hell? I looked up at her, my face calm. Hey, Emily. She pulled out the chair across from me and sat down without asking. You just left. No explanation, no note, nothing. Do you know how worried Mom has been? Dad's furious. I've been calling you for a week. I took a sip of my coffee, letting the silence stretch. I needed space. Space. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You don't just disappear because you need space. You talk to people. You tell them what's wrong. I set my cup down, meeting her gaze. What's wrong is that I've been invisible for years and nobody noticed. What's wrong is that I work myself to exhaustion while you get designer dresses for doing the bare minimum. What's wrong is that Dad looked me in the eye and told me I haven't earned anything. Emily blinked, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to argue but could not find the words. That's not fair. You don't know what I've been dealing with. You're right, I said quietly. I don't, because nobody ever asked what I was dealing with either. She stared at me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. So that's it. You're just done with us? I leaned back in my chair, my expression unreadable. I'm done being taken for granted. If that means I'm done with you, then yes. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You're being selfish, Michael. Family is supposed to stick together. I met her eyes, my voice steady and cold. Then maybe you should have treated me like family. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. She grabbed her purse and walked out of the coffee shop, the door swinging shut behind her with a sharp chime. I turned back to my laptop, my hands shaking slightly. I took a deep breath and forced myself to focus on the design in front of me. The logo was for a small business, a family-owned bakery. The client had told me they wanted something warm, something that felt like home. I smiled bitterly and kept working. 2 weeks after I left, I received an email from the landlord. The subject line read, Rent Payment Inquiry. I opened it, my pulse quickening. Dear Michael, I have not received this month's rent payment. As per our arrangement over the past 2 years, the payment is now overdue. Please confirm the status of your payment or let me know if there have been any changes to the account. Best regards, Robert Smith. I read the email 3 times, my mind racing. The landlord had always dealt with me directly, never with my parents. They had no idea the payments came from me. They thought the rent was automatically deducted, some arrangement Dad had set up years ago. I closed the laptop and sat back staring at the ceiling. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. The moment the truth would unravel. I could have responded, could have explained, could have bought myself more time, but I did not. I let the email sit unanswered. 3 days later, I received another message. This one was shorter, more urgent. Michael, your family contacted me about the rent. They were unaware of our arrangement. I have informed them that you have been the sole payer for the past 2 years. Please reach out at your earliest convenience. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and dread. It was done. They knew. I imagined the scene at the house. The landlord calling, asking about the overdue payment. Dad answering confused, insisting he had been handling the rent. The landlord correcting him, explaining that Michael had been paying, that the arrangement had always been with Michael. The silence that must have followed. The realization. I checked my phone. 32 missed calls. 17 text messages. 3 voicemails. I opened the first voicemail. It was Mom. Her voice shaking. Michael, please call me. The landlord told us you've been paying the rent. I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us? Please, we need to talk. The second voicemail was Dad. His voice was different. No longer firm or disappointed. It was quiet, almost broken. Son, I messed up. I didn't know. I didn't know. Please come home. We can fix this. The third was Emily. She was crying. Michael, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Please don't hate us. Please. I set the phone down, my hand steady. I did not feel angry anymore. I did not feel vindicated. I just felt tired. The kind of tired that sleep could not fix. I opened my laptop and pulled up the document I had created days earlier, the one with all the rent payments listed. I attached it to an email addressed to my parents and Emily. In the body of the email, I wrote a single line. This is what I've been contributing. I hope it was enough. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I closed the laptop, turned off my phone, and lay down on the motel bed. The neon sign outside buzzed and flickered, casting shifting shadows across the walls. For the first time in 2 years, I felt something close to peace. When the email arrived, Mom opened it on her phone at the kitchen table. She read the single line, then opened the attachment. Her face went pale as she scrolled through the list of payments. Each one dated and time-stamped, stretching back 2 years. $900 every single month. 24 payments total. She called Dad over, her hands trembling. He leaned over her shoulder, reading the screen, his expression shifting from confusion to shock to something that looked like shame. He paid all of this? Dad whispered, his voice barely audible. Mom nodded, tears streaming down her face. $21,600. He paid $21,600 and we didn't know. Emily walked into the kitchen, sensing the tension. What's going on? Mom turned the phone toward her and Emily took it. Her eyes scanning the document. Her face crumpled as the reality set in. The rent she thought Dad was paying. The stability she took for granted. The home she felt safe in. It had all been Michael. The brother she dismissed. The brother they all dismissed. Oh my God, Emily breathed, sinking into a chair. Dad paced the kitchen, his hands running through his hair. I told him he wasn't contributing. I didn't know. I should have known. Mom looked around the kitchen at the home they had taken for granted, at the life Michael had quietly funded while they celebrated Emily's token contributions. What do? We find him, Emily said, her voice determined. We find him and we beg him to forgive us. But deep down they all knew. Finding Michael was one thing. Earning his forgiveness was something else entirely. 3 weeks after I sent the email, I signed a lease on a small apartment across town. It was modest, a one-bedroom with large windows that let in morning light. The rent was affordable, well within my budget now that I was only paying for myself. I furnished it simply: a bed, a desk, a couch. Everything I needed, nothing I did not. I continued my freelance work, taking on more clients, building a portfolio that reflected skills I had honed during those late-night sessions in my old room. The work was steady, the pay reliable, and for the first time in years, the money I earned stayed mine. I did not block my family's numbers, but I did not respond either. I read their messages sometimes late at night when the apartment was quiet. Apologies, explanations, pleas for forgiveness. Emily sent long texts about how she never knew, how she wished she had paid attention, how she would do anything to make it right. Dad's messages were shorter, more direct. I was wrong. I didn't know. I see that now. Please let me fix this. Mom's voicemails were the hardest to listen to. Her voice cracked with guilt, with the realization that she had failed me in ways she was only beginning to understand. But I was not ready. Maybe I would never be ready. One evening, I received a message from an unknown number. I opened it cautiously. Hey, Michael. This is Chris, your old coworker from the warehouse. Heard you moved. Just wanted to say you always worked harder than anyone I knew. Hope you're doing well. I smiled a small genuine smile and typed back a response. Thanks, Chris. I'm doing better than I have in a long time. And it was true. I was sleeping through the night. I was eating regular meals. I was working on projects that excited me, not just ones that paid the bills. I was building a life that belonged to me, not one I was sacrificing for people who could not see my value. I thought about my family sometimes, about whether they had found a way to pay the rent, whether they had downsized, whether they had finally understood the cost of their neglect. Part of me hoped they had learned something. Another part of me did not care. I had spent years being invisible, being the dependable one, the one who gave without receiving. Now I was learning what it meant to be whole, to exist for myself, to define my worth on my own terms. One afternoon, I sat on my couch with a cup of coffee, sunlight streaming through the windows. My laptop was open. A new client project displayed on the screen. I felt calm, centered, free. My phone buzzed. Another message from Mom. I glanced at it, but did not open it. Not today. Maybe not ever. I took a sip of coffee and returned to my work. The design was coming together nicely, clean lines and bold colors. The client would love it. For the first time in years, I felt like I mattered. Not because of what I could give, but because of who I was. And that was enough.